Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am back today finally trying to get back into the swing of things, trying to do some new makeup and just distract myself from what has happened. If you were wondering where I was, I've had quite a few comments and DMs. I know not everybody has Instagram, not everybody checks, the community tab on YouTube. I have been off socials because last Tuesday morning, we found my English Bulldog who had passed away in his sleep. It was very unexpected. I will say we had him since a puppy and he has had a plethora of health issues. I mean, seriously, super expensive, high maintenance dog, always severe allergies, just things we were dealing with. But we were working with multiple vets, the specialist. I mean, we've gone through so much with him, and through it all, he was such a doll baby, just so happy, loving. I mean, everybody loved him. Every time he went to the vet, they would take pictures with him, panting and wiggling and happy. He just loved people. He was just one of those dogs that truly would not hurt a fly. He just had no aggression, no behavior issues. He just, unfortunately, had a lot of health issues, which bulldogs have already, but English bulldogs in general have a lot of health issues. They don't live very long. It's really, really sad now that I've gotten to know the breed. I mean, I've owned them for 11 years. Me and Ian have actually never lived together without an English bulldog. So this is a weird feeling. I'm missing it so much. Some people might say they're ugly and they're wrinkly and they slobber all over. But to me, there's just something about an English bulldog that steals my heart every time. And I'm missing having it in the house. So just struggling with coping with that. As you guys know, I really don't want to cry. I lost 3 dogs since 2020, and unfortunately it was just bad timing. Nala was 15. She passed away. We put her to sleep because she had seizures and they were getting worse even with medication. She really wasn't feeling well. And then 3 months later, Curtis, out of nowhere, 10 years, I think he just turned 10 the week before, basically dropped dead, within an hour. It was just, I went through that whole story. It was very traumatic. Ian wasn't home, and that really messed me up for a long time. I had a really hard time with that. And then Puppy passed last week in his sleep. I think I'm having a hard time with the fact that 2 of my dogs passed in my home. I've never dealt with that even growing up. We had pets, and I feel like we always put them to sleep, with the help of the vet. And so to have these dogs literally pass away in my home has been just something I wasn't prepared for. But as I look more into English bulldogs and speak to my vet and speak to other people that have bulldogs, seems to be sort of a common thing. It's almost like their heart gives out. It's just a really sad reality, but I love the breed so much that it's when I look back, they didn't suffer and they had the best life. Obviously, I've had a really tough time in the past year and a half losing 3 of my pets, and I feel sad that I had to announce it every time. I think I share so much of my life with you, and so much of my life was my pets and is my pets. I just love, sharing them with you guys. They really were my babies. I would look at Pup and he would just be sleeping, and I would be like, Ian, look at him. And Ian's he's just sleeping. And I'm like, but look at him. He's so beautiful. I just adored these dogs so much. Anyone that knows me knows my obsession. They were my babies and they were with me. I mean, I work from home. They were with me all the time. But I'm trying to focus on Winnie, and we are really just pouring our love into her. We already did, but we're really really spoiling this little girl. And I think she's kind of confused, but kind of loving it. So I just want to say a heartfelt thank you to every single one of you that sent your condolences, left a comment, sent a message, or just was thinking of me during this time. I know that a dog is a dog, but to me, it really was huge losses back to back to back. And I'm just doing the best I can to get through it. So I appreciate you guys just thinking of me, letting me have a moment to step away. I have so much makeup to review that I felt almost this weird feeling of I wanted to film, but I just couldn't mentally get there because I was still just so upset. So I feel today I really just want to take my mind off of it and get back to what I love, which is reviewing makeup. It's gonna take me a minute to catch up, but I'm gonna do my best, and I really just wanna get back to what I love. So hopefully that explains my absence, and again, just thank you to all of you who were understanding during this time. So in terms of the makeup that I'm going to be using today, I have quite a lot of new products. We have the new Lawless Conceal the Deal Longwear Foundation. This is brand new, as well as the Glam Guard Longwear Setting Spray. Just got these. Also wanted to try out the One Size Concealer. I know I'm late, I apologize, but I definitely wanted to give this a try. I also picked up this Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer. This is the coffee latte one. Just thought we would try it out. I know a lot of people were interested in this line. Of course, I have the new Pat McGrath Utopian Dream eyeshadow palette. I have literally not even touched this, so we'll do a look with this. And I also picked up the Intensifies Artistry Wand, which is supposed to make her shimmers and metallics really pop. Also just got in some new brow products from Makeup by Mario. We have the brow pencil and then also a brow gel. I always get nervous with brows because my brows are a pain in the ass regardless. And then I have this Huda Beauty Lifeliner Quick and Easy. This is the new liner. I've used this a few times so I can give you my thoughts. And then we have a couple other products. The NARS Cheek Palette. They released 2 different colorways, so I thought I would demo this, as well as this new brand that sent me highlighters. This is Estate Cosmetics, sort of giving me ColourPop vibes, like Super Shock. And then for lips, I have a couple products from ColourPop, also from NARS, so we'll just see where the look takes us. But again, thank you guys again so much for your support. I will link all the products I talk about today down below. I'm a little bit rusty, so bear with me. But if you're new here, I hope you'll subscribe. Not every video is sad and sulky like this. It's a little embarrassing, but you know, life happens. So before I start talking for hours and hours, let's go ahead and begin. So I've got you zoomed in, and I want to start off on the eyes as I usually do. I'm going to be using the new Pat McGrath Utopian Dream palette. So this is the back of the palette. It has this gold detailing, and then the front has the typical black packaging. This is very heavy and weighted. It feels very luxe. So inside here you get 10 shades. I thought maybe I would swatch them first just to give you an idea. So I turned my lights down so you could really get a look at these swatches and see how they look without the lights blowing them out. There are 6 different finishes in this palette, and you can definitely tell when you touch these. Of course, you have the mattes here, but then you have like a true metallic in this one. It feels very creamy, full pigment metallic. You move up here and you have a, I think it's a duochrome or a trichrome, and it's really shiny, but again, creamy, feels like a metallic. Then you go up to these special shades up here, and they're more intense and dry, but they give you almost like that topper vibe. So I'm interested to try these out. This shade really just stands out to me. Just something that I don't really have in my collection, just like ethereal and beautiful. So to start off my look, I'm really trying to figure out where I want to go with this. I think I actually am going to start out with the brightest shade here. So I am just going to start working this on the outer corner and then into the crease. I also did get the Intensify wand, so we're going to play with that when we go in with the shimmery shade. I think I'm actually going to put some in here too. So next, to intensify, I'm going to go into the deepest matte in the palette. This is a deep brown, and I'm going to use a flat brush and keep this lower. And then I'm just going to take that first brush and sort of blend the edges here. So along with the palette, I purchased this eye makeup intensifier. This is essentially supposed to intensify her metallics, duochromes, or special shades. This is what it looks like, and it has a click bottom. The only thing I noticed is you can't like twist it back down, so you don't want to be clicking it too much, and then you won't be able to put it back down. So just make sure you're only clicking what you need. I'm assuming that we're gonna have to do this for a while to get what we need here. Okay, so the product came up. I want to feel it. It has a very silicone feel on the skin. It doesn't feel tacky or even very wet. It has like a soft silicone sort of feel. It's definitely clear. So what I'm going to do is swatch one of these shades on my hand on top of the intensifier and then swatch one without it and see if we can notice a difference on the hand. Okay, so I took one of these special shades on the end. You can see this is 2 swipes with nothing under it. So you definitely have some fallout. It's a glittery shade. Like I said, it's a little bit more dry, crumbly in the pan. This is 2 swipes with the base. Definitely just grabbed on immediately, and I would say it does look a little bit more intense with the base, but I think the main thing I'm noticing is the fact that you're going to get minimal fallout and it's really going to stick to that. So what I'm going to do is take some on my fingertip and try it that way on this eye. I'm just going to sort of tap it onto the center of my lid here, and we'll see how this shadow performs on top. Going back into the palette, I just have to play with this shade right here. So I'm going to pick it up on my finger. Oh, wow. And start applying. Wow. So as you can see, there's very minimal, if any, fallout. Maybe a little bit of sparkle fallout, but nothing like you would get without that base. Definitely intensifies it, but really just gives it something to grab onto. Really pretty. So I am going to do the same thing on the other eye here. This base doesn't feel thick or extremely sticky, and it doesn't even seem to be disrupting any of the shadow I have underneath, which is a nice sign. It just like grabs on to whatever you put on top of it, but I would say you don't want to use like a matte with this. You would just probably use anything with shine. So next I want to go in with just one of her regular metallics here, and I want to see if I can lay down a little bit of this metallic with nothing underneath it, just a dry brush on the outer portions of where I put that center shade. This one feels definitely super creamy, whereas the topper shade or the special shades do feel dry, but you get that high intensity with them, so it sort of makes sense. And then just to make sure that everything's blended, I'm going in with a small brush. This is a Smith 233. I really like it for detail. With the deepest shade, I just want to make sure that everything is nice and blended. And I do feel like I lost quite a bit of this color just because I put the dark color on top. So I'm gonna go back into that really coral shade. This is a Smith 235. And with the lightest pressure, I want to go around the edges here. Just wanna bring back a little bit of that. And also just to add a little bit extra sparkle, I do want to go into this really bright shade up here. This one seems a little bit more glittery than the other two. I'm going to sort of work it onto my finger, and I just want to tap like almost over this. I don't know if I like that I just did that, but we'll see. Okay, I kind of wish I hadn't put that top shade on, but it is what it is. So I'm going to wipe away fallout. I mean, you definitely are going to get fallout, especially with those shimmer shades. And I think also because I used that light shade and I didn't put that base underneath. So I definitely do your eyes first. So next I want to do a wing with the new Huda Beauty liner. This is called the Life Liner Quick and Easy. Now I've used this a couple times, and what I've noticed about it is probably the smallest brush tip liner I've ever seen. Very similar to how she did her brow pencil. It's smaller than pretty much every other liner on the market. I wanted to compare it to the tattoo liner from KVD because that's one of my favorites. So here is a close-up. The Huda Beauty is right here, and then the KVD is on the other side. You can see that it is much smaller. So I feel like this would be a great liner for precision, or if you prefer smaller wings. So I want to go ahead and demo this for you and show you how I use it to get a wing. So I go ahead and do a line usually, and then I pull it back in. Wow, I'm rusty. Woo! So this wing is a little bit tragic, but I will clean it up and fix it. One of the reasons why I do my eyes first. I feel like this liner really excels in the inner corner. It doesn't skip, and it's so thin that you can get a very tiny line, which is something I struggle with. It could just be like my eye shape, but I feel like getting a very thin line on the inner part of my eye is very difficult, and I don't want it to be too thick because then it makes my eyes look small. So the way that I would fix this wing is just go under with a makeup wipe. So I would do something like this, and then you can tweak it again. This is just really good for precision. I have noticed that you might want to continually shake it, make sure that the ink is actually coming out of the brush. I want to see how long it lasts. It's not going to be one of those that dries out in a couple weeks, because obviously that's not what we want. So I'll have to update with that. But in terms of ease of use, I think it's really nice. I feel like the color is nice, very comparable again to the KVD Tattoo. So I'm quite happy with this. So I went ahead and did my other winged liner and then put on some lashes. I'm not sure the brand just because I've used them before, but I want to move on to complexion. We have a brand new foundation from Lawless. This is called the Conceal the Deal Long Wear Full Coverage Foundation. They sent me 3 shades, and they also have a setting spray and a brush. So I want to try this out today. Now I will say I did try the lightest shade yesterday because I didn't have my self tan on, and I have some thoughts, but I want to see how I like it with full glam and using it in the shade that would match me. I think I am going to go for the shade Fawn, which you can see the shade names right here. Now it's very much giving me Kosas tinted face oil. It's giving me the same sort of packaging and the same feel because you really want to shake this up, but I want to read about this. A long wearing lightweight foundation that delivers modern full coverage with a self-setting natural matte finish. So I already moisturized my skin before the video. I'm going in with my Tarte Timeless just in my pore area. So along with the foundation and the setting spray, we have a new brush. This is the Lawless foundation brush. Immediately, it reminds me of 2 brushes that I love for foundation. One of them you can't get anymore, which is the Makeup by Mario Sephora collaboration, and then also the BK Beauty 106. When I hold them up, I mean, these are very, very similar. So I feel like if you have, you know, one of these, you may not need to get this, or, you know, if you're interested, you could get the BK Beauty or the Lawless, but we're going to use this today. This foundation is very sheer. So, or not sheer, very thin. Wow. A little rusty here. So I'm going to shake this up, and it is like a dropper, very liquidy. That's what I meant. Very thin. So I'm going to go in with the Lawless brush. This is the shade Fawn. Ooh, okay. That looks lighter than I thought. All right, let's just keep going. I feel like it does oxidize a little bit because when you put it on, it looks pretty light. It's a very thin feel. Dang, it's too light for me. So this is 1 layer, and I feel like it's a medium coverage. You can definitely build it, but I don't think it's what I was anticipating. I was really thinking like the KVD Vegan Apple Foundation or the NARS Soft Matte Foundation, like instant full coverage. I'm surprised how light this looks on my face. The shade in Fawn. And this is the deepest shade they sent me, so I'm also not noticing any fragrance. I don't feel that it is hard to blend. Okay, I'm gonna have to do something about this because it's way too light with my chest here. Okay, so I can't take myself seriously because this shade is just way too light. I'm actually shocked because I really thought from looking at the side of it that it was gonna work for me. I mean, I really was thinking like, oh yeah, that'll work, but it definitely is lighter. So I really would have to go up probably 1 or 2 shades to match my self tan, but this is what it looks like. I would say 1 layer. You can definitely build it up. I would say to like a high, medium, maybe full if you really built it up. It looks nice on the skin. It is sort of interesting because it has that soft matte type of feel. I have to go in and add some sort of deeper shade just because otherwise I feel like I'm gonna look blanked out because I think the concealer I have have is light too. So I'm going to take a little bit of my NARS Soft Matte in Stromboli, which is just a smidge deep for me. Yeah, like I need to add a little bit of color here, otherwise it's going to be hard to tell how I feel. I feel like a foundation shade can really throw off your feelings on a product. If you feel that you look, you know, orange or ghostly, it's going to affect how you feel. When I wore this Lawless yesterday, it wore pretty well, but I did feel that it started to look a little heavy in my pore area. So I definitely need to get a shade that's gonna work for me, first of all. Okay, so I feel like this is more doable with what I have going on, although this shade doesn't even work perfectly for me. I have a hard time finding the right shade in the NARS, but that Lawless was just way too light to use, otherwise I was gonna look crazy. I wanna move on to the One Size Concealer. I picked up the shade Fair 4G. I think I got too light of a shade again. It's so hard to tell online, although the Lawless was sent to me, but I did purchase this One Size. This is giving me like MAC holiday vibes, and it has a sort of slanted doe foot, feels very thin and almost whipped. This one I've tried like once or twice and it does dry quickly. So you don't want to put this on and then let it sit, you know, for 5 minutes while you're doing other things. So I'm gonna go ahead and take my sponge here. This definitely has that soft matte feel to it. Yeah, I feel like you really want to apply this and blend immediately. Probably don't want to even let it sit like at all. It's not horrible, meaning like you can't work with it, but I just mean that you don't want to apply it and then start contouring your face and doing all that, and then you're gonna have a hard time blending this out. Coverage looks nice though. It looks nice and smoothing. Okay, so I'm noticing a little bit of dryness like right in here. It's looking a little bit crepey, which I was a little bit concerned about just because the nature of how fast this dries. It's like enhancing right in here. So I'm just taking my Huda powder and I'm just gonna push this into the skin. This is what my complexion is looking like. I feel like the skin looks pretty good. Now, again, we mixed in that NARS, so I really can't tell, but I feel like it mixed well. The concealer just looking dry, like under here, and almost like coverage was taken away. But I wanna go on to brows. Now, I'm really picky with my brows. I typically use the Benefit Precisely My Brow in 3.5. I like to have something very thin to line underneath, but I thought we could try this out from Makeup by Mario to fill in, and then also the brow gel. So this is his newest product. It's the Master Blade Brow Pencil. I think I'm gonna try the shade Blonde. It has a spoolie on one side, and then it has, I guess, larger tip, which is what I don't typically prefer. It also has this interesting thing on the side where you click it up. You can click it up and down, but I've never seen a mechanism like this. And I'm gonna use this to fill in. The only thing about this is I need something smaller, especially right here for hair-like strokes. Now, if you have really big, fluffy brows, then you probably wouldn't. So I'm just sort of filling in and then going through. Feels like a dry formula. It doesn't feel waxy to me, and it's not overly pigmented or creamy. I don't like when they're super creamy because they just slide all over. It's almost like a buildable formula. Color I like. I don't feel like it looks too warm. So now I'm taking my Benefit Precisely My Brow and I'm going to do the tail here. See, I need more precision, and that's just the way my brows are. So next I'm gonna try out his brow gel. Now I'm curious about this because we have so many brands coming out with brow gel. I actually saw you guys tagging me on Trend Mood because Got To Be hair gel is coming out with a brow gel. It's not available in the United States yet, but I saw your tags and I'm totally gonna be on it when it comes out. But this is the Makeup by Mario Master Hold Brow Gel. And in the promo photos, it looked like the, you know, laminated brow gels. This has just a typical spoolie. It's a clear gel. So I'm going to brush my brow hairs up here. Also noticing on the wand, there's like two different sides, a normal spoolie and then these longer sort of bristles. So that's interesting. I'm assuming the longer ones are gonna give you that laminated look. So I'm just applying it and then I take a spoolie to push the hairs up. It's just a matter of how does this hold. I'm not seeing any flaking, which is nice. Feels like a thinner formula. The Patrick Ta one is sort of sticky. Sometimes when I open the tube, you can see like strings of sticky, which I'm assuming gives it that hold. This one, I'm not getting any of that. So you can see now that I've lifted them, I have a little bit of sparseness. So I'm gonna go back into that brow pen from them. This is how I would use it, just really on the bottom of my brow. And then for the inside, I like to use something like this, or the Refi or the Huda Beauty, because I like to get those hair-like strokes. So brows are on. I want to go ahead and finish the lower lash line. I'm trying to decide what I want to do. I almost want to pull in that purple on the lower lash line, but I don't know how it will look just because the fallout is intense. I'm actually going to start with the deepest shade in the palette just to give me some sort of depth. And then see how this is looking. So I'm going to go into the bright sort of coral pink, and I'm going to blend this underneath. Just slightly. I think I'm going to take a little bit of this light metallic shade and just use this on the inner corner here. And I wasn't going to, but I think I am going to go in with the purple shade. I just feel like I really want to take it there. I'm going to wet this brush so that I have minimal fallout. And I want to try to place this like right in the center of my lower lash line. So now I'm going to take a little bit of my Gucci eyeliner in black. Just run this in the waterline. And I'm almost going to kind of fluff this outer edge out a little bit. So I think my eyes are done. I want to move on to bronzer. This is a Physicians Formula Butter Coffee Bronzer. They came out with like 4, like a donut, coffee, and some other ones. The shade range was not great, and I'm like, why do they keep doing this? But everybody seemed excited about these, so I grabbed one of these from Ulta. This is what it looks like. That's interesting. So when you swatch that, it just immediately goes away. Look how light that is. I mean, hopefully that even works for me. It does smell nice, like a sort of like a cappuccino. Pretty powdery formula. I'm going to be using a Sonia G Master Face brush. Yeah, it's pretty powdery, but let's see if I can even get depth from this. Okay. That is like glitter. Is that just the overspray? I usually like Physicians Formula bronzers. I just wish that they would do better on their shade range. So I feel like that overspray is just maybe the top. Like I'm not seeing, am I? Okay, it's not just the top. There definitely was an overspray, but there is a glow to this bronzer. Okay, I feel like I'm seeing like gold glitter, which it's a little much. Like you can see it on my forehead. Too glittery for me personally, so I'm kind of disappointed in that, but hopefully we can save it with the blush. Let's move on to cheeks. I want to go in with this Basic Instincts 2 palette. This is the Cheek Quad from NARS. Today I really want to use, I think, more of a pink shade, but this had a really beautiful kind of array of colors. They had 2 colorways. The other one seemed a little bit more neutral. Of course, these colors speak to me, but today I think I want to go in with this shade up here, just because I don't want to clash with like the cool tone purples that we have going on. So I'm just going to take this pretty high up here. I've really been liking pulling my blush pretty far back here. And this blush seems to have a little bit of a sheen to it. I don't mind it. I feel like it looks really beautiful with the eyes. Because I can't help myself, I'm gonna dip in like very lightly to the red. Okay, this is pigmented. And I'm gonna keep it up here. Something about a red blush, I'm telling you, just livens up the face. I feel like people are terrified of that shade, but so pretty. Now for highlight, this brand sent me some PR and I really didn't know anything about this brand. I've never heard of them. It is Estate Cosmetics. So I pulled out this shade. This is their highlighter in Lunar. I mean, this is like Spitting Image ColourPop. And even when you feel it, it feels identical to a ColourPop Super Shock. So I'm gonna use my Sonia G Mini Cheek, see how it picks up. So when you pick it up on the brush, it kind of gets a little chunky, just like the Super Shocks. But I thought this shade would look really pretty with this look. It's like a pink champagne. So it's definitely a beautiful shade, but it's just not my favorite formula because I feel like it can get chunky on the brush. I just really liked the Baked Gelée formulas for highlight because I feel like it can get a little heavy and grabby in certain areas. If you like the Super Shock from ColourPop highlighters, you'll like this. I think it's a beautiful shade. I just don't know if I'm like a huge fan of the sort of creamy powder formulas for highlighters. So now I'm going to line my lips. I'm going to use my Patrick Ta She's Strong lip liner. I like this formula. I wish it didn't have this like slanted, I guess, applicator, but I like the formula. Recently, I've been struggling with lining my lips. My lips are sort of getting smaller. Finally, I really went crazy with the filler like 2.5 years ago, and I haven't had lip filler since then. And they're really getting smaller, which I'm okay with, but I'm having a hard time sort of lining them sometimes just because I feel like it's hard to get like right where the edges are that meet up with my bottom lip. Like I'm noticing my lips are shifting, and sometimes I'm like trying to figure out how to line them correctly. So for lipstick, I have this new NARS La Freak. This is their Power Matte Lip Pigment. This must be a new shade. I think it might look okay with what we have going on. It's pretty cool toned. So I'm just gonna apply it to the center and sort of blend it in. So to finish off the look, I have the new Lawless setting spray. This is called the Glam Guard Longwear Setting Spray. Now, Lawless is a clean beauty brand, but this still does have alcohol in it, and most longwear setting sprays do. Very few really do a good job without alcohol. There are some, but it's kind of hard to find. They describe this as a weightless setting spray with a superfine mist that locks in your makeup, hydrates, and smooths. It also says this hydrating setting spray softens, smooths, and blurs while minimizing shine and preventing, preventing makeup breakup for up to 16 hours. Silicone free, it has a delicate, smooth, and powdery finish on the skin. So I'm shaking it up. You can hear there's like a little bead in there. Oh, that is a good mister, honey. It smells very light, like I would say a spa, but very light. So let's go ahead and apply. It's a very light mister, but if you get it close to your face, you can see that I really kind of went in there, but it's so fine that there's no droplets. Almost like the Glow Recipe, the really light one, but I would say a little bit stronger, but you're definitely gonna have to get like close to your face to get it on there. Very light smell. So it does smell like kind of herbal, or I guess like a spa, but it's not heavy at all. It's very minimal. I'm not noticing any blurring properties off the bat, but it's nice and refreshing. I do feel like it looks more hydrated on my forehead area. It's still sort of setting down. Of course, I'll have to see how it locks in makeup. And this is one of those things you have to use like with tons of different foundations and powders and primers to see really what it does, if it does anything. All right, guys, so here's my finished makeup look using all new products, and I want to go over my first impressions and thoughts. So let's start out with the Pat McGrath palette. The packaging is gorgeous. The color story is gorgeous. I think this is nothing really new for her. It's a little bit of a twist, but it's very in line with a lot of her Mothership palettes. I know a lot of people were upset and they wanted more color, but I feel like this is very on brand for her, and because I don't own a ton of these palettes, it worked for me. This shade right here really drew me in, which is the one I put on my lids. It is stunning. It is just this very iridescent, beautiful, like purple iridescent shift. I don't really know how to describe it. My only complaint is the fallout on these 3 shades specifically is intense, like glitter city fallout. Now, using the wand helped tremendously. If you have a lot of pat palettes and you find yourself struggling with the fallout on these, this is genius. I really think this is such a nice addition to her line because it works beautifully. So for me, when I use these special shades, I'm 100% always going to be reaching for the Artistry wand. I just feel like they are like peanut butter and jelly. They just work together and it really helps them adhere, and it just makes them easier to use because the fallout on this is intense. So I like this palette. I'm happy to have it, but I will say I would never do my eyes after doing my foundation if I was going to use those special shades, and I will always reach for the Artistry wand. Speaking of this is phenomenal. It does exactly what it says it's going to do. I like the texture on this. Very easy to use. It's not overly sticky. It doesn't drag. It just feels very light and thin, but somehow just grabs onto those shadows. It's very user-friendly, and that's what I'm looking for. And I also noticed when I put it on top of the mattes, it didn't disrupt them. So it's not like a thick, sticky glitter glue that you're trying to put on the center without disrupting anything else. Very easy to use. This product was perfection to add to her line. So I really like this, and I'm interested to try this with other shadows I have. Also really enjoying this Huda Beauty liner. Time will tell in terms of how it lasts. Is it going to dry out in 2 weeks, or is it just going to be one that you kind of have to shake up, you know, every so often, but it's going to last me for a while? It truly has a smaller tip than any other liner that I have, and I love a brush tip liner. I find this super easy to use. Very, very nice for detail work. If you want to do that inner flick, like the cat eye flick on the inner corner, this would be great. I find that it is black enough and it's not overly shiny. I mean, it just seems like sort of on par with the KVD Tattoo or really any of the liners that I enjoy. It went over this, you know, metallic sort of chunky glitter topper easily. Sometimes eyeliners aren't opaque enough and they have a hard time going over metallics or toppers or glitter, and this one didn't seem to have that issue. If it doesn't dry out, this is going to become holy grail for me. Now, in terms of the Lawless foundation, again, this is my second time wearing it. I have to say my skin looks good. Now, I know I mixed in the NARS. When I wore this alone yesterday, it wore pretty well, and I felt like it was pretty flattering on the skin. Now, if you have dry skin, you probably won't like this because it has that powdery matte finish, but I like it so far. I just don't think this is full coverage. So don't pick this up expecting full coverage off the get. If you have a lot to cover, just know you're gonna have to build this. I actually do need to get a deeper shade though. That was my only complaint because I really couldn't make it work today without mixing something in. So make sure you're checking swatches if you're gonna pick this up, but very, very thin formula. It's not oily at all. It just feels very weightless on the skin. It has like a soft matte feel. The feel on the skin is very much like the NARS Soft Matte, but lighter because it is so thin in texture. So I think this might be something that I enjoy maybe for every day, just because the NARS Soft Matte is like really, really high intensity coverage. This one is buildable, so it would be better for me every day when I just want a medium coverage, something very lightweight and thin. I'm just hoping I can find a shade that works for me and really test it out, see how it lasts. I also enjoyed the Lawless foundation brush. It reminds me so much of that BK Beauty brush I love. I like how this is more of an airbrush kind of brush. It's not very densely packed like a kabuki, but it's not too flimsy where you're getting no coverage. This is one that you can really swirl and buff and go back and forth and really blend foundation into your skin. So I almost just threw that across the room, but I like this one. Also enjoyed using the new Makeup by Mario products, and I think we may have a standout. So let's talk about the brow pen. This is just a little bit too big for me. There's no way that I can do my hair-like strokes that I need to do in the inner part of my brow, but for filling in the brow, I think it's really nice. It is a nice formula because it is not overly creamy. When you have a brow pencil that is super creamy, it just smudges everywhere, I find personally personally on me. And if you have one that's too waxy, it can get gunky and thick. This one feels very, very thin and buildable. So it's almost drier to where you can really just build it up and you're not gonna have that smudging all over. I felt like I had control with it. I wanna see if I swatch it. It's a drier formula, like really dry. If you see here, I mean, I'm really going back and forth and I'm barely getting the pigment. Now, keep in mind this is blonde, but it's one of those that I feel like you can really build it. So it's not going to be one where you're like, oh my gosh, I put some down and it's all over. If you like more of a dry, tough, buildable formula like I do, I think you'd really like this. Just know that you're not going to be doing the really fine hair-like strokes. This is more for like a fill-in and go. And I also think this might be a winner. This is the brow gel, the Master Hold Brow Gel. This really feels nice on the brows. Now we'll see how they hold up. That is the key. Is it going to hold up all day? I have really loved the Refi Beauty Gel, but that one is like milky white. It can get a little bit flaky. The Patrick Ta is very sticky. I like that too, but it kind of gets stringy and sticky. This one almost felt like nothing. Like it's very thin, much thinner than the other ones, and it's clear, and I just like that I could brush it through. It didn't get goopy at all. If anything, I feel like you'll have to build this one up just because not a lot comes out on the brush, so it's very easy to use, and I just brushed it through and then pushed my brows in place, and I felt like it was really nice. For those of you that like a light feel but you want the hold, it's not as thick and sticky as the Got To Be gel or the Patrick Ta. So I think this might be a nice option. We'll just have to see how my brows hold up. So I have a couple of products I'm a little unsure of, and I'm gonna have to keep testing them out. The One Size concealer is a little dry for me. I liked the coverage. I felt that it was smoothing. It didn't really crease heavily, but it's very dry. And I feel like if you have oily skin, this is probably gonna be your best friend. If you have dry skin or you have dry under eyes, I don't know if this would be your favorite. As I get older, I tend to prefer more hydrating. I like the Kosas, I like the Hailey's Beauty. I also really like even the Giorgio Armani, which is the Power Fabric, which is very thin but hydrating. This is more of a whipped, like matte kind of feel. Even when you swatch it, I mean, it goes almost like a cream to powder, and under my eyes, it can just be a little bit texture enhancing and also just make me look a little bit crepey. So I'll have to try this out. I didn't use an eye cream today, so maybe if I did prep my under eyes better, it would work better. It's not a hate, but it's not a love. Very similar feelings about this Physicians Formula bronzer. First of all, the shade range, they needed to do better. Second of all, I just feel like this was a glitter bomb. When I look at it, it looks like there's gold glitter specks in there, and I can really see it on my forehead. And when I turn, a little too much. I'm okay with, you know, radiance, but glitter is kind of like, I really don't want glitter on my face, especially where I don't want to enhance my texture. Like, I feel like it looks like I put a highlight on my forehead. But here's the swatch. I mean, this is such a light color. I just feel like they came out with, I think, 4, and they were all light. And I'm just like, how many times do we have to ask them to just like be inclusive? I don't know. It's just frustrating. So this was one that I picked up because I feel like a lot of people wanted to know my opinion on one of them. I'm really not that impressed, and I like the original Butter bronzers better. Also feeling so-so about this Estate Beauty highlighter. It's nothing against the color, and I think it's a beautiful shade, but it is that Super Shock formula, which I find to be a little bit difficult for the face. I just really don't typically enjoy that bouncy texture. Sometimes it can get chunky on the brush, and I would just rather have like a powder or a baked gelée type of feel. I think it's a beautiful color, but I would be more likely to use this on my inner corner or on my lid. Actually really loving this NARS cheek palette. I kind of like roasted it a little bit in a will I buy it, just because I feel like they do the same thing over and over. I feel like a lot of brands are really guilty of that, but I like the colors in here. You get this really beautiful orange shade, which I think would be beautiful if you're going for like a sun-kissed look. I love this blush. This is an oldie but a goodie. I think this is called Exhibit A. I owned the single years ago, and I just think something about red blush is just it for me. Then you have more of a mauve-y tone, which is really beautiful if you want more of like a subdued look, and the pink was really beautiful too, and it's not not orgasm. That's what I was looking for. I'm like, there's no orgasm in here. There's not an orgasm in here. So I'm like, okay, we're moving in the right direction because I have 87 orgasms. You know, I want something different. Give me something different. And I think this is a beautiful color story because they're all quite different and you can really go any way you want to go. And I really like the pink on the skin. I mean, I think it's beautiful. It goes well with the eyes. So I think if you don't own these blushes, this is a good buy. I just feel like, come on, NARS, let's come out with something different. Now, in terms of the NARS lipstick, this is the Power Matte Lip Pigment. Very thin formula. I feel like it's very comfortable because it's not sticky, but I am getting a little bit of the butthole lips already. This is like the dreaded butthole lips. I feel like recently, like I was telling you with my lip filler, kind of going down, I'm noticing I'm having a hard time lining the outer corners of my lips because I feel like my corners on the top are very small and on the bottom they go out more. So I kind of almost look like I have a Joker mouth. I don't know, it's driving me crazy, but I'm getting like weird lines and wearing off on the outer corners of my lips. And I just started noticing it a few months ago. So again, I just think it's my lips sort of going back down and I'm okay with it. But sometimes I'm like having a hard time getting just lipstick or lip liner to not gather and gunk in the corners of my mouth. This is not my favorite formula, but I have to say I love the color. I think it looks beautiful with what we have today, the pinks and the purples. So I would wear it again solely on the color, but the formula isn't like my top pick. And then in terms of the Lawless setting spray, great mister, very fine. You can really like get up in your face and you still feel it, but it's not going to leave droplets. So it's a very fine mister. I like that they didn't overload the scent. There's a very minimal scent. So it's not one of those that you're choking like, do we all remember the Huda Beauty one in the black packaging? I mean, that was like a headache. It was a perfume in a bottle. It's like literally spraying perfume on your face. But I don't know, again, how this is going to keep my makeup on longer until I use it many times. I'm a huge fan of the Charlotte Tilbury, but you know, you could always have a new favorite. This does have alcohol, which I know a lot of people don't love, but that tends to help lock in your makeup. I did find it to be hydrating, but not overly sticky. Like I don't feel any stick to my skin. So we'll see how this works over time, but the mister is great. The scent was nice, nothing overpowering. So if this keeps my makeup on longer, this may be a hit. Okay, so that is everything for today's trying new makeup. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I have to say, I enjoyed just doing my makeup, sitting down with you guys and trying new products. I have so many other products I can't wait to try. So I really probably will be doing a lot of these videos coming up because I just have so much to try. So please let me know down below what you want me to use next. I have just so much makeup. There's only one of me, so I'm gonna try to pump these out as much as possible. I'm very happy to be back. I missed you guys so much. It just has been a tough time, but I feel like, you know, we're coming towards the light. We're, you know, the light at the end of the tunnel. I feel like I'm moving in that direction. So I appreciate you guys just being patient in the meantime. I will link all the products that I used today down below in my description box if you want to check anything out. Thank you guys again so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.